Why so many men stay single for years and women are to blame. Listen, I'm not here to start another gender war or win arguments in a comment section. I'm here to describe something I've seen with my own eyes, a quiet epidemic that no one wants to talk about. You walk through any major city, London, New York, Seoul, and you'll see them, men. Successful, clean-cut, ambitious men, sitting alone at cafes, working late at co-working spaces, running at dawn. They look fine on the outside, but you can sense something missing connection. Elias Ward, that's me. I've spent the last 3 years studying this phenomenon for a documentary, and what I've found is simple but terrifying. Modern relationships have become a math problem that doesn't solve anymore. See, being alone wasn't always the dream. It's become the rational choice, not the sad one, the rational one. Why? Because love, for many, now feels like a casino table where the odds are rigged. To play, you bet your peace, your savings, your sanity, and most lose it all. Statistics don't lie. In the United States, marriage rates have fallen to the lowest level in recorded history. In Japan, 1/3 of men under 30 have never dated. In South Korea, birth rates are collapsing because both genders have opted out entirely. But behind the numbers are real people, weary, disillusioned, quietly choosing solitude over chaos. You can see it in their faces. Men who once dreamed of family dinners and shared Sunday mornings now dream of silence. Not because they hate love, but because they no longer trust it. They've seen too much friends destroyed by divorce courts, men mocked online for trying, their worth reduced to height, income, and entertainment value. It's like getting into a car that has a 70% chance of crashing and being told, "Be a man, just drive." Would you? Rationality kicks in. You start walking instead. It's slower, colder, but safe. The saddest part is, it wasn't always this way. My grandfather built a family with one paycheck and one promise. He wasn't rich, but he was respected. Now, a man could give everything work 60 hours, pay the bills, show emotional maturity, and still be told he's bare minimum. What changed isn't just the economy or culture, it's the contract between people. Somewhere along the way, love became transactional, and authenticity turned into a liability. I'll tell you what I think. Maybe men didn't vanish from relationships. Maybe love became a bad investment. A few months ago, I met my cousin Noah at a small bar near the harbour, one of those quiet places where the lights are low enough for honesty. He's 34, successful, well-spoken, the kind of man our mothers used to say would make a great husband someday. Except he hasn't been on a single date in 3 years, not one. When I asked him why, he laughed not out of humour, but exhaustion. He told me that every time he opens a dating app, it feels like applying for a job he's not qualified for. The listings are absurd. Must be 6 feet tall, must earn 6 figures, must own property, must be emotionally available but not clingy, must be confident but not controlling, must be perfect. Noah said it best. I feel like a product being reviewed on Amazon. Every conversation starts with a test, not curiosity. Every compliment feels like a transaction. And what's worse, the whole experience leaves people emptier than before. I started digging deeper. Data from Pew Research shows that nearly 63% of men under 35 describe dating as emotionally exhausting, while women say the same at nearly the same rate. But the exhaustion is different. Women are overwhelmed by options. Men are overwhelmed by rejection. This is the new price of admission to modern intimacy. Hyper-competition, performance, and an illusion of endless choice. Dating apps have turned love into a marketplace, and everyone's pretending to be both buyer and product. But here's the paradox: the more choices we have, the less we connect. Social scientists call it the paradox of abundance. When everything's available, nothing feels special. People now swipe past faces faster than they blink, not realizing each swipe is a small erosion of empathy. And that's what Noah meant when he said, "It's not that I gave up, it's that I can't recognize what we're even playing for anymore." He's not angry, he's numb. That's what scares me most, this quiet detachment spreading across an entire generation. We've created a culture where validation is the new oxygen. Women curate their best selves for attention. Men pretend not to care while secretly starving for connection. Likes became love letters. Reels became romance. And when everything becomes content, nothing feels real anymore. So maybe that's why men like Noah stopped trying. Not because they hate women, but because every effort feels like auditioning for a role that doesn't exist anymore, the genuine partner. When validation becomes currency, connection becomes extinct. There's this guy I coached once, Julian, 28, software developer, soft-spoken but sincere. The kind of man who still opens doors, who still believes small gestures matter. He told me about his last date, and it stayed with me longer than it should have. He'd picked a quiet restaurant, paid for everything, dressed like he cared. His date beautiful, confident, spent the entire evening taking pictures of the food, the lighting, the decor. Every few minutes, her phone lit up like a heartbeat. She didn't look at him once. When the food arrived, she posted stories, tagged the restaurant, but never him. Julian laughed as he told me, "I felt like the Uber driver who paid for dinner." At the end, she said the date was boring and left. No thank you, no follow-up, just silence. And the next day, an Instagram post about how men don't know how to date anymore. That's when I realized something. Dating has become performance art. Everyone's playing to an invisible audience. She wasn't there with Julian, she was there with her followers. And maybe that's what modern connection looks like now. Two people sitting together, performing loneliness for the camera. We used to say that relationships were built on reciprocity, on giving and receiving. Now it feels more like extraction. Effort has become one-sided. Empathy, optional. Gratitude, extinct. But here's the deeper rot, the asymmetry of accountability. Open social media right now and type "men are trash." Millions of results, likes, hashtags, slogans, merch. Now search "women are trash." It's gone, deleted, reported, labeled hate speech. One gender's pain is activism, the other's pain is offense. We've normalized contempt for one half of humanity and then act shocked when that half quietly checks out. Julian didn't become bitter, he became detached. He told me, "At least in my games, when I press a button, something happens. Out here, you give everything and get silence." That hit me hard because it's true. In a world where respect is mocked and sincerity is weakness, disconnection becomes self-defense. We call it men giving up. I think it's more like emotional triage. You can only bleed empathy for so long before you decide to stop the loss. And that's where we are now, a generation allergic to gratitude, obsessed with attention. Respect has become a luxury brand, everyone wants it, but no one can afford to give it. When love becomes performance, sincerity dies backstage. There's a woman I once interviewed for the documentary, Clara, 35, poised, intelligent, a marketing executive who looked like she had her life together. But under the surface, you could feel the panic. Her voice trembled when she said, "I don't understand. Where did all the good men go?" Clara used to have a spreadsheet, an actual Excel file for her ideal partner. Minimum height, 6 feet. Salary, 6 figures. Must have traveled to at least 10 countries. Must be ambitious, cultured, emotionally intelligent, funny, attractive. The list went on for 2 pages. She believed she was manifesting her standards. What she didn't realize was that she was auditioning people for a fantasy. And fantasies don't call you back. In her 20s, she had options. Too many, maybe. Dating apps flooded her with attention. Men in her DMs, offers for trips, dinner invites. It felt empowering, like standing in front of an infinite buffet. But nobody tells you what happens when the buffet closes. Now at 35, she scrolls through the same apps. The messages have changed. Fewer likes, fewer matches. The algorithms don't prioritize her anymore. The men she once ignored are now married or uninterested. The silence hits harder than rejection ever did. And here's where it gets cruel. This isn't just Clara's story. It's an entire generation's. A culture that told women, you can have it all, whenever you want. Forgot to mention that time doesn't negotiate. In psychology, we call this temporal bias, the illusion that tomorrow will always look like today. It's why people procrastinate on dreams, and why millions now find themselves staring at an empty apartment, wondering when later turned into too late. Meanwhile, men have adapted differently. They've learned to find meaning outside relationships. Gym memberships replaced validation, dogs replaced affection, careers replaced companionship. They found peace, not because they stopped caring, but because peace started to cost less than love. Freedom, when misunderstood, becomes its own kind of prison. Clara told me she spent years chasing independence, only to realize she built a life too small for two. And maybe that's the real heartbreak, not that men disappeared, but that women mistook abundance for security. Time doesn't punish, it reveals. You start to notice it everywhere once you look, the contradictions, the double standards so deeply baked into our culture that they've become invisible. A woman says she won't date a man under 6 feet, her preference. Empowerment. Applause emojis flood the comments. A man says he prefers women who stay fit, toxic, shallow, fatphobic. Cancel him. A woman wants a rich man, she knows her worth. A man wants a younger woman, he's predatory. A woman refuses to date single fathers, her choice. A man refuses to date single mothers, he's immature. Elias, the narrator's voice softens here, not out of pity but out of exhaustion. We've created a social marketplace, he says, where one side gets to set the price and the other side isn't even allowed to negotiate. It's not hate, it's arithmetic, and the math is breaking. Sociologists are seeing this fracture worldwide. In Japan, they call them herbivore men, young men who've given up on dating entirely. In South Korea, there's the 4B movement women who reject marriage, motherhood, and men altogether. In the West, they call it the Great Withdrawal. Different names, same consequence. Two halves of humanity walking in opposite directions, both claiming victory, both losing something sacred. We were promised equality, but what we built was rivalry. And maybe that's why everyone's tired. Men are exhausted from proving they're enough. Women are exhausted from pretending they don't need anyone. Nobody's winning, they're just defending. But here's the strange twist. Despite the resentment, both sides are longing for the same thing to be seen without suspicion. Men crave respect, women crave security. Both crave peace. But we turn those needs into weapons. Now even tenderness feels political. A compliment becomes a microaggression. A gesture of care becomes manipulation. Love used to be two people meeting in the middle. Now it's two opposing sides negotiating a ceasefire. Elias's tone turns reflective, almost mournful. Maybe equality wasn't meant to be sameness, he says. Maybe we confused fairness with vengeance. We thought liberation meant erasing our differences. But maybe love was never supposed to be a competition, maybe it was supposed to be a collaboration. And until we remember that, intimacy will keep shrinking into statistics. There's a moment I can't forget, a wedding I attended a few years ago. It was beautiful on paper, a cathedral full of flowers, a string quartet, a ceremony that probably cost more than a small house. But when I looked at the groom, a man in his mid-30s, successful, kind, his face told a different story. It wasn't joy, it was quiet surrender. The look of someone signing a contract he no longer believes in. His bride spent the evening micromanaging every detail, the wrong color of roses, the cake too sweet, the lighting too dim. The guest smiled, but you could feel it, something hollow beneath the sparkle. 6 months later, they were divorced. She kept the ring, the photos, the curated memories. He kept the debt and the silence. That night changed something in me. I realized that men aren't afraid of commitment. They're afraid of being trapped in a performance where only one side has a script. Modern love is expensive, not just in money, but in spirit. You invest years, emotions, and effort, and often the return is resentment. So men began to recalibrate. Not retreat, recalibrate. They started finding purpose elsewhere. The gym replaced therapy. Career replaced companionship. The quiet hum of a computer became more predictable than the chaos of a relationship. I've seen it in hundreds of interviews, the subtle peace in a man who's made peace with solitude. They stop chasing validation and start building something that can't betray them. Stability. It's easy to call them lonely, but that's not the right word. What they've built is order. A clean apartment. Financial control. No arguments about tone or text replies. No silent treatment. Just stillness. There's something haunting about that peace, though, because you can tell it wasn't chosen out of joy, it was built out of exhaustion. Humanity's most natural instinct connection now requires courage most people no longer have. But the irony is this. As men adapt to the quiet, women begin to fear it. For men, solitude becomes strength. For women, it becomes a mirror. And in that reflection, many see the cost of years spent mistaking independence for immunity. We were promised freedom, but the fine print said, Freedom without love comes with interest. Men didn't retreat. They simply stopped paying for chaos. It always comes down to silence in the end. Not the kind that follows an argument, but the kind that settles after truth has finished speaking. That's where we are now, at the quiet edge of a cultural reckoning. Both men and women standing on opposite sides of the same crumbling bridge, shouting, "You started it," while the water of loneliness rises beneath them. Elias looks straight into the camera, no anger, no bitterness, just clarity. The tragedy isn't that men stopped loving women, he says. It's that both sides stopped believing in each other. Men grew tired of being treated like utilities with emotions attached. Women grew tired of feeling unseen, unheard, unchosen. And somewhere between empowerment and exhaustion, we stopped trying to understand. The truth is, both are right, both are wrong, both are human. I've interviewed hundreds of people, and they all say the same thing in different words. I just want something real. But how can we have something real when everything's filtered, monetized, politicized? When authenticity is risky and pretense is rewarded? Social media made everyone believe they're the main character. But relationships require two people willing to share the spotlight, and that's something our culture no longer trains us for. There's no villain here, only victims of a collective illusion. Men of rejection, women of delusion, both chasing validation, both ending up alone. And yet, there's something redemptive in this collapse. Because endings are honest. They strip away the noise. They force us to see what truly matters, not who has the leverage, but who has the courage to stay when it's inconvenient. Maybe love isn't dying. Maybe it's molting, shedding its performative skin, so something truer can emerge. Maybe connection isn't gone. Maybe it's waiting, quietly, behind the noise for people brave enough to meet without masks. Elias takes a breath, voice calm but resolute. Maybe the end of love as we knew it isn't tragedy. Maybe it's evolution. He pauses. The screen fades to black.